Hour number 2 of the lunch break. Chris Schubert here with you. Producer Evan behind the glass. One more hour for us until the weekend. Appreciate you joining us here today on the show. The Phoenix Suns over the last 2 seasons have had huge expectations. There have been dreams of the first NBA championship for this organization. There have been dreams of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal being a part of a parade all over downtown Phoenix celebrating that championship. There have been thoughts of this team being the standard in the Western Conference. And over the last 2 seasons, the results of those expectations have not matched. What the Suns have done over the last 2 seasons have been a far cry from what we've expected of this team. And this summer, there's going to be a lot of change. There may be a coaching change. There may be a change in the front office. There will be players that go. There will be new players that will arrive. Kevin Durant will more than likely not be here. And so everything is going to be different surrounding this team next season, even if some of the key pieces on the chessboard are still here. If they only make a change at coach, but they keep the front office, if they keep the front office and the coach and they change all the players, things are going to be different. None of us are going to enter 2025, 2026. None of us are going to walk into next season and expect this team to win a championship. Those expectations are tabled for right now. So that leads to a question that I think is very important to framing what this summer is going to look like for this basketball organization. What does next year have to look like for the Phoenix Suns? What are the new realistic expectations for the Phoenix Suns? Is it to be a play-in team? Is it to make the playoffs? Is it to win one round in the playoffs? What are realistic, fair expectations for a team that right now we don't know who the coach is going to be? We don't know who's going to be in the front office. We don't know what the roster is going to look like. We don't have any of those answers. Yet, what are the expectations that we want to put on next season? Because you could say, well, Chris, I don't want to set an expectation. I don't want to set what would define a successful season until I see what they do with the coach, until what I see them do in the front office or what players they bring in here. And that's fair. You can choose to wait, but I think those expectations are going to inform how this team proceeds this offseason. Because I think you could have an ownership that doesn't want to rebuild. We know that. We know this is an owner who believes the word rebuild is a curse word. We have an owner who believes that rebuild is not in the dictionary of the Phoenix Suns vocabulary, does not want to say it, does not want to think about it. And so if that is off the table, then there's already kind of a bias of how this offseason gets framed. There is still an expectation of winning inside that building. I don't think this is a organization that is going to tolerate another year of not being in the playoffs. I think they believe they can put together a roster that can compete for a playoff spot next year. Not just a play-in spot, but a playoff spot if they make the right moves, if they make the right tweaks. So again, you can wait to set your expectations, and I think you would be fair to do so. But if this ownership group and the front office, whether it's the same or whether it's different, if they go into free agency, if they go into a Kevin Durant trade, if they go into any of the moves this offseason already with the idea in their head of we're trying to win next season, not a championship, but we're trying to win, be relevant, be competitive, that is obviously going to impact what they ask for back in a Kevin Durant trade. It is obviously going to impact what players they may try to acquire either via a trade, via the draft, via free agency. Sometimes you get to draft night and you're more willing to take on projects, players that are not going to be able to be contributors right away. It's going to take a year or two, maybe 3, for them to unlock their potential. Other teams are at a point in their life cycle where they want to take players that maybe are on the older side and are more finished products. They don't have a super high ceiling, but they have a really high floor, and they can be key contributing role players. It's kind of what the Suns wanted to do with Ryan Dunn. They thought his defense was NBA ready. At least they did when they drafted him. Throughout the season, the defense they didn't care about. They cared about it at the draft, and that's why they drafted him. But during the season, the coaching staff didn't care about that defense. They drafted somebody who was NBA ready defensively because they needed players that could help them right away. So the Phoenix Suns last offseason are the perfect example of a team that drafts with their current needs in mind, with their current win now roster in mind. And so if you go into the offseason, before you make any of these moves, already in your mind, you've made up that this team is going to win next season. We are going to put on the court a winning basketball team. You may run the risk of making some of the same mistakes you've made the last couple of years. Maybe not to the extreme of trading 4 first-round picks, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, for Kevin Durant, or making the Bradley Beal trade. It may not be to that extreme, but you may make mistakes. Whereas if you go into the offseason saying, we need to get better in this area, we need to get better in this area, we need to get better here, and we'll see where the chips fall, but we know we're on the right track. And maybe it won't be in year 1, but in year 2 of this process, then we'll be ready to win. Then we'll be ready to fight for a playoff spot. But I ask you, 480-864-1060, KDUS AM 1060 YouTube live stream, however you want to get in contact with us, do you think this owner is going to take his foot a little bit off the gas pedal? We've used this analogy in the past to talk about Matt Ishbia and the Phoenix Suns. And we said that at the trade deadline, by not making any big moves and by considering trading Kevin Durant but not actually going through with it, the Phoenix Suns are a sports car driving down the freeway, and they've been doing 85-90 down the freeway the whole time. And after the trade deadline passed, they didn't make the U-turn and start going the right way on the highway because we're going 90 in the wrong direction. They didn't get off on the next exit and turn around and go the other way. They just took their foot off the gas. And so instead of going 90, we've now slowed down to 85, maybe 78. We're starting to slow down. But we still haven't made the real definitive choice to get off the highway and get going in the right direction. And so I'm still wondering, will this owner turn the car around and get it going in the right direction? Or will he still be cruising along at 70, 65, 60, still going in the wrong direction, but thinking that he is doing the right thing? We can wait until all the moves are done to decide on our expectations. I think the expectations need to be set out front because that is going to influence and inform all of the decisions we see this team make the rest of the offseason.
Doesn't it feel like if their owner wasn't Matt Ishbia, like any other team would go into a rebuild, but he's so allergic to the word rebuild that it just feels like that's not the way they're going to head. But it just feels like this is a team who would really benefit in 5 years from selling it and going for a rebuild.
I think this organization can thread the needle. I legitimately think if this team changes the voices in the front office, changes the voices on the coaching staff, gets back the right haul for Kevin Durant, makes the right moves in free agency, drafts well, they can be competitive next season. They can put on paper a roster that might not look as good as having Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, right? And Tyus Jones and Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen. On paper, it might not look as good of a roster, but it can be more of a team. It can be a group that wins more than 35, 36 games like this team is going to end up winning this season. I don't think it is that difficult. I think if they get the right return for Kevin Durant, which we have long said on this show, is 2 first-round picks, 1 starter, and 1 young player to try to unlock the potential of. That's the framework. If the Suns get that or better, I will sing their praises, and I will say they checked that box. They made a good move. 2 first-round picks, 1 starter, and 1 young player whose potential needs to be tapped into. If you do that, I think you did enough in the Kevin Durant trade. Then you also, because you get underneath one of the aprons by moving Kevin Durant, you have some more tools in your toolbox. You can identify some other players on other teams that maybe you want to bring in. I think they can make a better team for next season. Pieces that actually fit together. Pieces that actually have that grit, that have that toughness, that have that defensive intensity. Flying all over the floor, both ends, up and down, just making plays happen. I think they can put together that roster in this offseason. Will they do that? Or will they go for the quick fix? See, let's workshop an analogy here. I haven't really thought this through, so we may hit some bumps along the road, but just go with me, everybody. You want to make some changes to your house, right? There are some out there that are making the argument that the Phoenix Suns need to rent the bulldozer and knock the whole house down to the foundation and start over. I think, producer Evan, you would fall into that camp, that you would like to rent the bulldozer. You would probably like to operate the bulldozer and knock the house down, go to the foundation. Fair?
Rip it down.
Rip it down. So you are part of that group that wants to bring in the bulldozer. And then I think there are people like me who think, can we just knock down this wall and maybe add an extension, and we repaint the living room and we get the new cabinets and the granite in the kitchen, and then with the new extension we redo the garage, and you keep the foundation basically the same, but you don't just make cosmetic changes, we make actual structural changes, and the house is actually going to go up in value. And then there are some people, I wonder if the owner is one of these people, that just wants to slap a new coat of paint on the outside of the house, wants to change out one plant in the driveway for another plant, and try to present the case that, no, everything's different this go around. Everything's new. I think I just outlined 3 different philosophies. Your philosophy is an extreme. I think the philosophy of just a new coat of paint on the outside and changing out some of the shrubbery is the other end of the extreme. What I am campaigning for is somewhere in the middle. A modest upgrade to the house. A modest bit of construction. Not a Band-Aid. Not full-blown surgery. Just some tweaks. Some big tweaks, but just some tweaks. And I wonder which one of those 3 paths this team is going to pick. I know, based on their words, they're not renting the bulldozer. That's not happening. The bulldozer's not coming. Will it be just a fresh coat of paint? Or will they knock down some walls, redo the layout a little bit, upgrade some of the cabinetry, put in the wood floors, and actually make meaningful changes while keeping the foundation, that foundation being Devin Booker, still intact? That informs what the expectations are. You choose the path that I've just outlined, I think you can ask this team to be in the play-in race and potentially be one of the 8 teams that plays in the first round. You bulldoze it down, you're asking for a couple of years of pain, and the expectations are just don't completely embarrass yourself like the Philadelphia 76ers or the way you embarrassed yourself the last couple of years. And then there is the fresh coat of paint on the outside. Those expectations, I don't know what you do with those expectations.